Hi guys, and welcome to At Home with Elisa. Just before I start my garden tour, I just wanted to explain something. I have been missing from YouTube for just over a month, I believe. And I literally haven't been in my garden. I haven't had time to film anything. My husband has been in and out of hospital with some heart issues. It was a scary time. There was obviously a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of ambulance call outs, a lot of time spent in the hospital, and obviously there was a little bit going on that we were trying to deal with. At this point in time, I believe that he's back at work, so he's feeling better. In about 6 weeks time we find out if he has another surgery or not. But yeah, anytime with heart issues with a loved one, it's a scary time, and we've had a bit to deal with, and that's why I haven't been here. So I know this is a garden tour, but I just wanted to explain why I have been a little bit absent, and thankfully things are a lot better at the moment, and hopefully they continue to be, and his dodgy heart is no longer an issue, fingers crossed. So let's get on with the garden tour. Now, clearly with all that going on in our lives, I haven't spent much time in the garden. I would love to show you a beautiful autumn garden tour. The garden is still currently under construction, but we're getting there. It's getting closer, and yeah, I have only had one day in the garden since everything's been going on, so it's not looking the best, but there's so many things that I've learned throughout this growing season, and I just wanted to document them and share them, and hopefully that they help you as well. Just different observations that I've made. You know, last year we had some crazy weather. We had 96 inches of rain throughout the year, and it was a different growing season to what this season has been, because we were dealing with excessive flooding. We haven't had that this time, and it's been more like a normal sort of summer and autumn, and I just wanted to show you what has happened, so that then obviously you can see if you can pick up some tips on how to analyze like just light and water management and the way that things grow. Now, I am on the central coast of New South Wales, which is a temperate gardening zone in Australia, and it's roughly equivalent to a 9B planting zone in America. And we have had a reasonably good summer and autumn. We haven't had a normal heat and really hot dry summer that we are used to. As I said, we're just coming out of that La Nina, so we've had so much more rain than normal. I expect that this year will hopefully be more like a normal growing season, but there's always things that can be learnt in the garden. So if you're new here, I have a chicken area here which has a dividing fence. We have our garden, and we have where the garden will be extending to, which is just past, there's just a tree there. It'll be extending to just past that tree. So that will be happening maybe next summer, autumn. But currently I just have a large dirt pile which has been sitting here for ages. Now when the garden extension is done, I'll be able to have materials dropped at the very back fence down the back there, so they won't be out on the lawn, which will be so much nicer, because sometimes things happen and it takes a while to build garden beds. This one here is just a garden bed that I have. I have 2 gardenias to plant into that. I plant the Gardenia magnifica, which is the biggest gardenia that you can get. And these are Gardenia magnificas over this side. I do have an arbor planned for the entrance of this garden, and I have some Bayer de Ronsard, which is also known as Eden climbing rose. So I have those, and we will be constructing an arbor here. Things have just obviously slowed down with construction, but we'll get back on track soon. And I have those roses that will grow up over a beautiful wooden arbor here, which I'm very excited about. So this is the Gardenia magnifica, obviously currently not in flower, but I'm hoping that with these ones here, I can kind of create a little bit of a hedge. So a gardenia hedge in full bloom will be absolutely stunning. So I am looking forward to when these get a little bit bigger. This is my biggest one, but I'm looking forward to them. And then we come and we actually enter into the garden area. Now this garden area is roughly about, I think it was 170 square meters I worked out one day. And here's Georgie. Georgie's my favorite chicken. She's just beautiful. She's so friendly. But back to the garden. So I have a in-ground garden bed, and I have raised garden beds. It's just a mixture of both in-ground and raised. A lot of the in-ground ones did flood, so we've had to repair those a few times. The raised garden beds haven't flooded, thankfully. We got to It did flood just in that corner there, but otherwise it was pretty good. So one of our gardening goals this year is to look at using grey water from our house for flowers. So I will be sort of changing the garden up a little bit, and in some of the garden beds it will be pure water, so pure rainfall captured water, and also other garden beds will be for flowers and they will be grey water. So from our house it is runoff, it is filtered, and it's safe to use on flowers, just not food. So I will be having designated food beds and designated flower beds. One of the things about living here, we live in a rural area, and we don't actually have any access to town water. So the only water that we have is rainwater that's been collected or brought in. So obviously we need to watch. When it comes to a normal summer, we are going to have a lot of trouble actually watering all of our gardens, because I am a keen gardener and the gardens just seem to keep growing. So I need to really think about how I use water on the property and how we collect and save and distribute and use the water the best that we can. So one of the things we're looking at is using grey water in some garden beds. So just as you come inside the gate, I've just got an empty pot here. I'm just going to be filling it up with mint very soon. But currently I have a food garden bed which I will be changing into a flower garden bed. That is in anticipation of extending the flower bed up into that area there. So it's very close to becoming a dormant time for roses in our area, and I will be transplanting some of the roses into this garden bed to essentially allow access into the new garden extension area. I currently have a beautiful cucamelon plant. Now cucamelons are definitely something that we've only just tried this year. So this is a cucamelon and they are really, really yummy. They're great for summer salads. However, I didn't realize that in our growing zone, a temperate growing zone, they're actually yearly. So we can keep growing these all year. They won't actually die off. So my plan with this is actually to take it out, because we're not harvesting it at the moment. The chickens don't really love eating them either. So I'm thinking I will take this completely out of the garden and resow it again next year. So as you can see, I have not been able to keep up with the cucamelon harvest, so I need to do a good garden cleanup. But this rose here is an ebb tide rose. I'll put a picture up on the screen for you. It's a beautiful, obviously a standard rose, and is a beautiful, beautiful purple colour. Something that we do actually deal with in our area is a fungal disease called black spot. We are extremely humid here where we live. I did actually speak to someone who works at the Botanic Gardens recently for New South Wales, and she was saying that with regards to like black spot and fungal disease, we just can't control it here. So basically whatever you do, it's still not going to control it. You can use all the products in the world and it isn't really going to stop it. So she said it's just something that we live with, and honestly I haven't found a product yet that can actually stop black spot, and I've been growing roses for years, so it's just something that we have to put up with, I think. And down here I just have some capsicum plants. They've still got some beautiful capsicums on them. I was really hoping that these would ripen up. However, I think I'm just going to have to harvest them as they are. We are currently at 10 degrees today, and when I woke up at 6 this morning it was actually 0.6 of a degree. So it's definitely time to get these into the greenhouse and see if I can winter them over. So I'll harvest these, dig the capsicum up and winter them over. I have a Shirley Temple peony. Clearly it's not doing well. I know that they say, what is it, first year they sleep, second year they first year they sleep, second year they creep, and third year they leap. Now this is its first year, and I didn't even know that this is sleeping. This is like barely existing, so I'll keep it there, but I'm not very hopeful. Then we have the remnants of a big red tomato. Now I haven't grown tomatoes to this extent here in our new property. I obviously grew tomatoes in our old property, but look at that, focus. But look at that beautiful tomato. Now, who would have thought, we are only a few days out from winter and I'm still getting gorgeous tomatoes to take up to the fridge. So still a bit green on that side, but I'll leave it out on the sun on the bench. And beautiful tomato. I honestly just didn't realize that you could keep tomatoes in the ground and still be getting fruit off them into winter. Now obviously this garden bed will be changing into a flower garden bed, but I don't need to do that till July, so I'll just keep these tomatoes going as long as I can and harvest as many as I can from them. I also have a beautiful basil plant here. It is obviously getting too past its use by date as well. We don't actually eat basil ourselves, however I do like to use, obviously when they're flowering it's a lot nicer, I do like to use the stems and the foliage in flower arrangements. And I also am aware that they are really good companion plants for tomatoes, so that was one of the reasons I actually grew these from seed. So that's why this is here. And here we have a gross lissy tomato, which clearly is still putting off some fruit. Oh, that one's for the chickens. Come off. So this is a gross lissy tomato. Again, this one was grown from seed as well, and it just keeps producing. So if it keeps producing and I don't need the space, I'm just going to keep it going and see how many more tomatoes I can get off it. Now just here I have an asparagus and another asparagus here. You can see by the colour of them they are just about to start going dormant. Now when they go dormant I actually am moving them because this will be one of those grey water garden beds, and they obviously will be food and they need fresh water. So as soon as they become dormant I will be cutting them back and transplanting them into another garden bed. This is just a mobile trellis that I have moved around our little garden. I have some bijou. Is it bijou? I have some bijou mix, which bijou mix is a sweet pea from Mr. Fothergill's, and it's not a very tall sweet pea, so it will fill in the trellis just beautifully and just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So I'm looking forward to some sweet peas over in this side. Again, as I said, it'll be a flower bed. And just here, look at these beauties. Oh my goodness. So these are mortgage lifter tomatoes, and I have been hoping and praying that some more of them actually do start to ripen. So it looks like it's going to work, which I'm very excited about. I had a mortgage lifter tomato in the peak of the season in summer, and it was, I'll see if I can find a photo of it, but we had one that was 400 grams and we had one that was 600 and something grams. That's absolutely huge for a tomato. So mortgage lifters will forever be in my heart and will forever be in my garden, I believe. Just down here I have some grape hyacinth which will be coming on very shortly. I have prostrate rosemary which is just spreading out and looking absolutely stunning just here. I have some beautiful little potted colour of petunias which I just love, that soft pink, it's just gorgeous. This little girl statue has been with me since I was, I think, maybe 19, so she has moved from property to property and is still going strong. She's still cute. And this is a mandarin tree that we had in our orchard area. Our orchard area was a significant fail due to it flooding, so I have moved this. However, I haven't had very good luck with citrus, but I recently watched a special and I think I found out why. So citrus trees, from what I was watching on the special, really like a lot of water, which is something that, apart from the flooding, they really haven't received a great deal of consistent watering, and they also haven't received a lot of supplemental feeding. So I think that's something that I really need to focus on going forward, because I currently I have a mandarin, an orange and a lemon tree, so I obviously want to be harvesting from them at some point. The other thing I did notice is that I need to protect them from possums. We have quite a bit of possum impact here, so I think next year when I got tiny little fruits start to form this year, and within a week they were all gone. I think it was the possums. We found the possums around here, so I think possums get to them over night time. So next year when the fruit actually start to form, I think I will try and net the whole tree, and hopefully that, along with the feeding and the consistent watering, hopefully that really ups our chances of getting a good harvest. So that brings us to the corner of the existing garden. Now the garden extension, as I said, will come out into the shadow, the second shadow of that tree there. It will continue along through this shadowy area, and it will go join up to our side fence. So all this area here, it's roughly double the existing size of what it is currently. I haven't measured it out exactly, but I know that it's roughly about the same size as what I'm currently dealing with. So that will be so exciting because I'll have so many more opportunities to grow so much more. And currently this bed is really nothing special to look at. It's coming into its dormant phase. So in this garden bed I have multiple different types of roses, lots of colours, any colour basically within the rose family is welcome. And I do also have some bearded iris. Now the bearded iris are starting to put their energy into flowers and not their leaves, so shortly they will actually start to put strength on. They're about to go a little bit on the dormant side, then they will put their strength on. And I had a beautiful display of bearded iris last year. I'll see if I can find some photos, but I am so looking forward to them coming on. Now some of these roses just in here will be the ones that I'll be transplanting into where those tomatoes are, into that garden bed, just so that I can open up the fence just here. So we need a fence because we have wallabies, and wallabies absolutely love my garden, and I don't want to lose my garden in one night. So I will open, once the new fence is erected, I will open up an area just in here, transplant out the roses that are here to another spot. Fingers crossed they survive, and that will give me new access to the new garden area. Now again, black spot is a fungal disease that we do deal with in our area, but I'm still getting the odd bloom, and I'm really happy for that because there's not a lot happening in the garden at the moment. So I welcome any bloom I can get. Now this bloom here is obviously just about done, but look at the size, look at the structure. It's still beautiful. I haven't had the heart to deadhead it yet. So yes, that is my rose garden along with all my bearded iris. And then if we go over here, let's go have a look at this garden bed. So this is what I call one of my twin garden beds, because these are really large garden beds. They're about 1.5 wide by 3 meters long, and they're exactly the same with the trellising arbor in between. On the trellising arbor I currently have beans and chocos. Chocos are also known as, I think it's pronounced chayote, and chocos are something that we do love, and yeah, really been enjoying the harvest of them. My goodness, we've been getting so many. But in this garden bed, I worked out this season that this garden bed here gets the morning sun, that garden bed over there gets the afternoon sun. Now some plants obviously can deal with morning sun, like my gerbras, my leafy greens, things that like it a little bit more cool, whereas that garden bed over there gets the late afternoon sun. So I'm thinking that next year tomatoes and capsicum would be great in that other garden bed over there. So I'm currently just transplanting some gerbras over to this garden bed because it gets that afternoon shade, which is what they need. It just gets a bit too hot for them. I did transplant this one already, and I left my watering can here so that I can remember to water it daily. So when I go looking for my watering can, it reminds me that I need to water that gerbera because it has not adjusted well from the transplant and I don't want to lose it. Gerberas are one of my favourite flowers. I think that they are just absolutely just lovely. They do really well in our area. I have done videos on how to plant out gerberas because they can be a little bit tricky. Oh, this one's done. They can be a little bit tricky because they have a crown that you need to keep above the soil. That needs to be deadheaded. Oh, look at that one. But I do love gerberas. I've actually just started some seeds, some gerbera seeds, so I'm keen to see if they continue. Now in this garden bed I originally had flowers and I was using just quite a thick mulch that we had. Some neighbours took down some trees, so I was using quite a thick mulch. Look at that, little violas coming up. They're just self-seeded. But I'm using quite a thick mulch. Now I will be taking this out when I redo this garden bed, just because I'll be putting fruit and vegetables in here and I'll need more something like a sugarcane mulch, so that'll come out soon. I kind of like to keep just within the first foot of all the surrounds of the garden bed, I like to just keep something like potted colour or something that just flowers, and then have my crops on the inside. I currently have some dahlia tubers planted all along here. As you can see, one's just really needs to be cut back, but I have some dahlias, and I can then obviously tie those with just a twine and have them use the support of the actual arbor itself to hold themselves up, and it worked really, really well. Another thing that I did this summer was I set up this weeper hose, and it seems to work well. I set it on top of the mulch because I just wanted to test it out if it actually would cope with the pump pressure that we have. I have a diesel pump down here, which is what we use for all our watering, and I wasn't sure how the weeper hose would actually hold up. It does hold up really well, so I'll be doing these garden beds again very shortly. When I do that, I'll take the weeper hose off, I'll take the mulch off, I'll replant the garden bed, then put the hose down and put the mulch on top. The mulch should be on top because the hoses are black, and in summer it will heat up the water on the plants. Now these are some anemones that were planted here last year. They are ones that have just come back up again, but I will actually be taking these out because I don't want these in this garden bed anymore, so I'll be taking those out shortly. And again, I have a gross Lissy tomato plant. I'm filling up my pockets here. I have a gross Lissy tomato plant that did really well for us this season and is still continuing to grow. So if it is continuing to grow, I am happy to harvest from it. And I just used the trellis here to also help support the tomatoes. They were putting off so many tomatoes that the weight of it was they were quite heavy. So I've used the trellis to help hold them up, and it seemed to work really well. This here is a choco, or a chayote, and these are just coming to an end now. But we have really been enjoying them. I have given so many away to family and friends, it's not funny, but it's been great. And also along this whole side here of this trellis, I have had beans growing, so just climbing beans, and I love them for garden snacks, so we have really been enjoying harvesting the beans, and we've had so many. I think next year I'll try and look at this baby bean. Next year I'll try and look at ways that I can actually I think maybe grow some more and try and store some more. So absolutely loving fresh beans. Walking around the garden, there is nothing better. This is the size you want, about this size. If they get any thicker, they get a bit hard, but one-handed. Picking these and munching on these when you're walking around the garden, best thing ever. I like peas, but beans are good too. So we've really enjoyed coming down and harvesting from the garden of a night time over the summer and the autumn. The choco is probably just about done. I've noticed a definite drop in production, and same with the beans as well. So that says to me, all right, it's time for me to start and actually plant something else out. We have the one choco plant, which was, it's just here. That was actually a gift from my father-in-law. I'm actually thinking that these were some big ones when we were dealing with the hospital and stuff. I wasn't down here and I didn't check them. But these ones here are large, and I'm thinking I might try and save them so that next year I can put another choco. So this one here will actually come back. That will come back every year now. So I'm thinking if I was to plant another one over this side, then I'd have two chocos. So that's my thoughts at the moment. And that is the ones that we're saving for that seed. Now this is the other twin garden bed. Currently there is not a great deal going on in it at the moment. I am hoping to have just a section here right in the center where I can plant a plum tree. I was a little bit too, I'm not sure when the plum trees actually are available in our area, bare root, but I know it's soon. So I'm hoping to put a plum tree here, and over the other side a nectarine tree in the middle, because I think when they flower, they are stunning, and if they can give us fruit as well, hello, double win. So again, I'll follow my foot around the very outside, which will just be flowers. I did have some sunflowers in here over the summertime. My alyssum is definitely seen better days. I was hoping that it might actually start seeding and put off little babies, but all I can see under that is weeds. So it's definitely time for it to come out. Again, a gerbera needs to be deheaded, and I will transplant that over into the other garden bed. Apart from that, again, these posts here actually mark dahlias. I have a passion fruit which I haven't killed, which is fantastic. I have a terrible history. I don't know how many passion fruit I've killed, but it's got leaves, so I take that as a win. But realistically, it should be covering this trellis, and it's not, so I'm not sure what to do there. I'll keep feeding it. Silver beet over this side of the garden bed. Again, this is my hot garden bed. This was a learning thing, so I need to move that over to the other garden bed. The snapdragons will stay. The gerbera just here will go. It's got a little baby on it. So that's cute. Just about to open. So this gerbera will move again over to the other side. And apart from the beautiful dust bathing chickens here in the background, this garden bed here was kind of an experimental garden bed because I was growing plants I hadn't grown before. Like I grew this lupin. I'll see if I can find flowers for you from the summer, but I grew this lupin, and I know I need to cut this back very soon so it can reshoot. But I wasn't aware of how big they grow, and I wasn't sure if I would love them. I have since determined I absolutely love them, and will be hopefully planting out this garden bed with a lot more lupin. But I have this yarrow. Now I do like yarrow, however yarrow is a real bully. It just spreads, it takes over, it smothers other plants. But look at that, it's fantastic in cut flower arrangements. So the yarrow will be dug out of this garden bed. I have it a few spots in my garden. Here's a beautiful new one. Look at the colour of it. I've seen a white one as well that I really want to get my hands on. But these will be taken out of the garden bed. I don't want yarrow in my garden bed. It will be taken out, and I will use it in a landscaping project outside of this actual garden. Another plant that I have here is Ostromerium. I love Ostromerium. This actually came with us from our old house, and it's just gorgeous, but it did die off in the summer here because it was too hot. So my plan is to actually take it out and transplant it into one of the twin garden beds, the shadier one, so that it gets protection from the afternoon sun. And this here is Dianthus Jolt, which is a stunning flower, but it was just outcompeted by the yarrow. And honestly, it was smothered. I have 4 of these planted in this garden bed, and I'm not sure if they all survived underneath the yarrow, so I'll have to check on that. And I have our arbor, which goes into the chickens area, which was also our orchard. That just is an epic fail. But currently our garden arbor has beans on it, so we have added extra climbing beans, which has been really, really yummy. Another one for a garden snack. So look at that, see? Beautiful, just snacky. But yes, I did have some sweet peas planted on this in spring, and it was absolutely stunning. So the beans are just about done, and I'm not sure, but I'm hoping I can get some sweet peas in this spot for next spring coming. One second. They're really good. So this garden bed here, it's just an in-ground garden bed. It has suffered significant flooding previously. Like I'm talking maybe half a foot of water just shearing over the whole entire bed. So this is one of the trees that we rescued from the orchard area. It's an orange tree. Again, it is not doing fantastic, basically due to me. So hopefully I can resurrect it and it can come on a little bit stronger. But over the summer period, I had some cosmos, which I literally have just ripped out because they were just self-seeding. See all this here? It's not actually weeds, it's baby cosmos from all the seeds. So I have to take all those out. I honestly, I know about cosmos. I know that they can be incredibly invasive. So I need to make sure that I rip the plants out or deadhead them. It's just we've been a bit too busy this year to be able to do it. But yes, now I'm left with the aftermath of having to clean all this up. Obviously have some straw flowers, which are still going very, very strong. Absolutely beautiful. I had a beautiful pink colour. Where's a pink one? So these ones here, just stunning. This is actually a really good spot at this point, is when you can pick them, harvest them, and actually hang them upside down and dry them out. Straw flowers dry out really, really well. But look at that, beautiful. So I have been harvesting some of them to actually try and create a reef over the winter time is my plan. So, but yes, they're all obviously going to seed as well. So quite a bit of garden maintenance still needing to be done. I do also have just here, it's a jumble of mess at the moment, but I'll see if I can find a photo. I have a chocolate cosmos, which is one of my favorite flowers in the garden. They just have such a beautiful like velvety like texture, and when you put them in flower arrangements they just look absolutely stunning. So I know I can't leave it out here, the cold will kill it. As I said, we got down to almost freezing overnight. We don't get a hard frost here. I think I've lived on the Central Coast my whole life, and I think I only ever remember having 2 or 3 hard frosts where, you know, like the windscreen of the car was icy. But we do get quite cool down here, but we're windy on top of a mountain where we currently live, so I still don't want to take the risk. I'm still going to take it out and hopefully put it in the greenhouse, and that will then make sure that I can plant it out again for next year. Then we come to our big long garden bed. Now this garden bed's actually 6 meters by 1.5 meters. It is huge. Currently you'll be able to see a lot of strawberries. We are still harvesting strawberries, which is absolutely fantastic. This urn here, it's actually a water feature, and let me see if I can capture the cherry blossoms. No, probably not quite. But there's a cherry blossom imprint just here and one on the other side, and I actually have this lit up of a night time. It shows, and it looks absolutely beautiful. But in this garden bed I mainly have a lot of strawberries, which I will be transplanting out shortly. The asparagus I was talking about before will go just in here. This garden bed will be a food garden bed, so therefore a rainwater garden bed, not a grey water garden bed. I also have some dwarf peaches. These were given to me last year by a friend of the family. I have 3 of them, so I am really, really hopeful that something might come of those. And the sticks at the moment, they're not very appealing at the moment, but these are gaura, which is one of my favorite flowers. They just look so beautiful when they're actually in flower. I have some nasturtiums on the end just for bugs, but I'll take those out shortly. But yes, the gaura are one of my favorite, and surrounding this urn when they're in full flower is absolutely stunning. Oh look here, so you can see the impression of the cherry blossoms. Very pretty. Now if you are new here, we have a water catchment just further up here which captures a lot of water. When it overflows, this is where it overflows to. It does have pipes which come out directly at that spot over there. So the pipes from the catchment, it fills up and the water comes out here, it slows it down and it disperses and goes down into a creek downstream. But we have an overflow area, so if it fills up to overflowing, the water comes through this area here and continues out that way as well. So I will be putting in, I'll need a bridge going over to the other side of the garden bed, but I'm looking at putting in something like a dry creek bed, which will look nice but will still have that functionality that it requires. So that is the plan for that area there. This here is a garden bed that has been obviously recently constructed. So with the garden bed I have just put a layer of cardboard down. I will shortly be adding a whole heap of, we have like a carload size of eucalyptus mulch, so I will be adding a whole heap of mulch onto this, and then I'll be adding about 20 maybe 30 centimeters of soil to the very, very top. And this will be a garden bed at this point in time for ranunculus. I have roughly about 200 ranunculus corms that I need to plant like in the next week. So I may not have time to paint the outside of the garden bed, but I will actually be filling it and getting those ranunculus in the ground, otherwise they're going to be really late in spring. We also have plans for another garden bed the exact same size as this one, slightly smaller than those other bigger ones that I showed you. This is just 1 metre by 2 metre. So I'm planning to do another one just here and another one up further, and both of them will have rather wide pathways in between. When we had a lot of rain, we had some compost. The compost obviously spread as the flooding sort of occurred, and we had a pumpkin seed germinate. And I thought, well, I'm not using this area of the garden bed, we're not ready to do anything with it. So I thought, well, I'll just let the pumpkin do its thing. Now, over the summer period, we harvested, I think we harvested 9 or 10 beautiful pumpkins, and they had reached maturity. The vine was starting to die off, so I was like, okay, well, it's time to harvest them. So I've harvested them. We cut the vine back quite a bit. I didn't take it out completely. It's reshooted, and here we are just about to go into winter, and I've got pumpkins growing, which I didn't know was a thing. I thought they were summer growing, but I don't have plans to put the garden bed in just as yet. So again, just let it go. It's producing flowers, it's producing fruit, it's producing food. So very exciting, confusing, but very exciting. And this is just one of the pumpkins that is currently growing. So yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Winter pumpkins. And another thing that also self-seeded in this wild patch of my garden is just this cosmos, and it's got like a pinky purple flower, which is really pretty. The others were like a hot pink, but this one's like a pinky mauve color, and it's really pretty. It's the only one that's still currently going and not, it's about to obviously seed completely, but I'll rip it out shortly. I was just enjoying it for a little bit longer. And then we come to this area here. Now, I promise I am not a plant hoarder. I know it doesn't look like it, but I promise I'm not. So a lot of these plants here are ones that will need to go into the garden. A lot of the pots that seem empty are actually spring bulbs, which now I know exactly where I will be planting them. Last year when I had to dig them up, I didn't. And these, a lot of them are also just landscaping plants that we have been buying. We have some plants that we want to buy, and we sort of have a list of them, and we do have some big plans for next year to do a huge garden area and pathway outside of this garden itself. And obviously for that we need to accumulate plants to plant it out. So that's what I've been doing. We've got proteas, we've got banksias, grevilleas, I've got gardenias, I've got blueberry plants here, tuckaroos, which are Australian, a huge Australian tree which we really want to give a focal spot to, and just different plants that we're looking at planting outside of our garden here. So I don't love that all these pots are here. I don't love it. It doesn't look neat and tidy, which is what I like. But at the same point in time, I have no other choice. I need an area to store them, that I can care for them, and this is where it happens to be. This area does flood, so you will notice that they are up on blocks, and honestly this area just behind here actually does flood a bit. So I think as long as I need it, I will continue to have these shelves here with plants on them to be able to keep them out in full sun, and also to make sure that I water them regularly but they don't flood and wash away. Now I promise I am just about finished my garden tour. Currently have a mulberry plant, a mulberry tree, sorry, which was given to us. It is a dwarf mulberry, so it's not anything that we need to panic about getting huge. It'll still keep big. I still need to keep it in check, but I am looking at putting it in a raised area just here. As I said, this is the area here, just here, that can get a little bit, it can get very wet when it needs to. So I'm looking at planting it here in a large sort of in-ground rustic cotton steel pot, and it will look beautiful, and I have a matching one on the very other side over here. Now this garden bed here was the last garden bed that we actually finished. Again, this area has flooded, hence it being a wood surround, not a rock surround. I really wanted some sandstone here, rocks around this garden bed, but when we saw it flooding I knew that was just a really bad idea. So at least with the wooden pots around water the water comes from this direction. As the water comes, it will deflect and hopefully continue downstream. So worst case scenario, hopefully we've got it covered. Now in this garden bed, I just obviously constructed a teepee. Now my teepee looks a bit wonky actually. I think it's moved a little bit, but my teepee is constructed out of Guimea stalks. Guimeas are a native flower here. We have them growing on our property, and I just wanted to use something that I obviously had growing. So I might give that a push from that side and see if I can straighten that up. It was straight when it went in, but the strong winds come from this side, so I can only assume that's what's happened. But I just have some potted petunias at the very front here, and then I have one of my favourite flowers, which is a Mystic Splice Blue Salvia, and it is just lovely. It's fantastic to be able to use in arrangements. Pollinators absolutely love it, and I love that they're both flanking this here. Around my teepee will be interchangeable, but currently I have sweet peas planted, and I have a mixture of coloured sweet peas all growing around here, and they've popped up and they look fantastic. Along the very back of this fence line I have star jasmine. The fence line is about 1 metre to our neighbour's property, and the neighbour's trees, I absolutely love them for every other month but this month, because they just create such a mess, but it's great to use in compost. So they are losing their leaves at the moment, but they are just absolutely stunning. So yes, I'm working with obviously a lot of mulch. I did blow the garden out before I actually started filming, but I've got some star jasmine here. Now this will climb up and cover this fence. I will be raising the fence actually to the top of this post just here. So I will be continuing it along. I'll need to raise it. The sweet peas will need more climbing space as well, but I'm hoping that visually it creates a block to sort of just block out this area here, which isn't our property, it is our neighbour's property. Our property is sort of kept a bit tidy, but they have a much larger property than what we do. So I'm just looking to create a privacy screen essentially, and a beautiful wall of star jasmine is to me where it's at. Now I also have a whole heap, I think roughly about 25 Norman Wisdom sweet peas, which is a beautiful white sweet pea that I grew last year. I did find all of them had died here, and I was like, what's going on? Little mouse. Had a little mouse just living in the garden. Gave me a little bit of a fright yesterday, and he was obviously eating the tops of the sweet peas. So I'm thinking I'll have a beautiful wall of white sweet peas, except for this section here. I did sow some more seeds, but I don't know if that's going to work or not. But yes, Mousy won that round. So this view, hopefully within time, will be from this post here all the way across a fence of beautiful climbing, flowering, deep green foliage of star jasmine, and I can intermix with it seasonal flowers that might be climbers. So I could even put some beans or peas up there if I wanted to. At this point in time, I'm just going with the sweet peas because I know that they grow really, really well here, and I'd love a wall of flowers at the very back of this garden to just kind of hedge out some of that mess, that's all. This here is also the matching dwarf mulberry to the other side of the garden. These here were tree surrounds. They're caught in steel tree surrounds that we used in another part of our property, and they didn't really work out for what we had planned. So what I'm thinking about doing is actually joining 3 of them together with wooden stake and using them to contain the actual dwarf mulberry tree. So I think it'll look really pretty. I will need some help just getting that done from my husband, but yes, this is my messy utility area. It's very handy. I don't like that it's very messy at the moment because you just don't know if it's a bit too cold for snakes at the moment, but you don't know what's in there, so I'm very cautious. This is a project I started working on and haven't got back to. Yeah, again, just busy. And this here is my greenhouse. So this greenhouse was put up, I think in September last year. This greenhouse will probably be pulled down in about March next year. It just is not coping with our high wind. So I have had to use, I think they call it 100 mile an hour tape. So numerous times I have had to tape the roof on You see there's something actually holding that roof panel down. It flew off into the garden and actually broke the other day. It just cannot cope with our winds up here, so it needs to be redone, and I want to actually do it so I can collect water and have the water run into this tank as well. So it's something that we will be looking at doing hopefully in the new year. But yes, this is just my little desk. I have some plants at the moment that need to be planted out desperately. They were left before, I think they needed planted before my husband had his health problems, and now they are just, they really need to get in the ground. I have a pineapple that I have been forming roots on for a little while. Jonquils, my husband doesn't like the smell, so I have them in here, and when I open it up of a morning, it's just delicious. In the background here, I have some flowers that I have been drying out. I also have our sprayers. I have ones that I use for different things in the garden. My leaf blower, my newspaper collection, newspapers on the bottom of all our new beds. Thank you very much to my dad and my father-in-law for collecting those for us. And just a little workbench up the back there. This area here is actually a western side wall. In our area, the western sun is the really, really hot afternoon sun. So when I do redo this greenhouse, I'm thinking of making that a solid wall so that I can give a bit of protection in here from that hot afternoon sun. And just in here, I have all my stuff for my chickens. I have some seeds that I have started, some leeks and silver beet. Again, things have been a little bit neglected just recently with so many things going on, but I am loving it. In here, I have some Morea that I'm trying to see if I can grow from cuttings. And a lot of these will actually be used in a project that I've got going on next year, but I just, I'll get some more details and tell you about that shortly. These onions desperately needed to be planted out. Look at them, oh my goodness. So I'm hoping that I can plant those out tomorrow. So that is a tour of my late autumn, honestly almost winter garden, which has been neglected a little bit over the last month, but it is what it is. I did learn so much over the autumn growing season. Thankfully, a lot of my dahlias, if you've been with me for a while, those dahlias were actually dug out of a flooded garden bed, and thankfully I only lost one, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to the growing season ahead. I'm just sort of winter, I'm taking a little bit of time to step back from the garden, mainly because I have a project coming up in the springtime which will obviously require a lot of planning, a lot of thought, and a lot of seed starting. So hopefully I'm really good at it, otherwise things are going to go really, really bad. But yes, I'm looking forward to the growing season ahead. I'm looking forward to just a month or two of just a little bit of quiet in the garden. When I say quiet, you know, it's not like you stop gardening. I don't think gardeners ever completely stop gardening, but having things slow down a little bit, having me at least be able to catch my breath and to be able to be excited for the spring, summer and autumn growing season coming up. So if I can catch up and get my to-do list down a little bit, it will be so nice. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you so much for joining me on my garden tour today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. I learned so much this growing season. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you join me again next time. Bye.